All right, how's that sound? Can you hear me now, people? Sylvia? On my side, I see a little audio thing going doodly doodly doo. Excellent. Good, good, good. Oh, sorry about that. Rough start. Well, that's what I get. All right, let me turn it down so I'm not yelling in your ears. Does it sound good? We happy? Yes, no, maybe so. All right. Mr. Donato. I don't think I've seen you before. Welcome. Um, or maybe I just was not observant last time. So shame on me. And then you old classics. Thanks for being here. All right, let me open up my beer. Totally forgot. Didn't even bring an opener. I could use that pen. I could probably use my goblet. All right. Didgeridoo. That'll do. All right, it's not ideal. I think we can get it done. Excellent. All right, thanks for the confirmation that the sound is good here. Sorry, I thought I was reading my tea leaves. I thought I had a message on the bottom of this bottle cap. Nope, just a weird shaped stain. Guys, I'm pretty excited about this. You know, there are pros and cons to reading at the pace that I'm reading, but I love how much time I spend just thinking about the current moment the characters are in. It feels like until I get to the next section, they're exactly where I left them, and I'm dwelling there with them. And maybe that would be tough at certain moments. The Dead Marshes, for example, that'd be a bad time, but you know what? It helps me feel like I'm kind of struggling with them. So to be in Mordor and in this weird limbo waiting for the next chapter, I feel like I need to feel that pain a little more. Like you can't just read quick to get through it. It doesn't do it justice. So it is nice to kind of take our time. I was going to announce this beer, but I don't even know how to say. To Old Coffee Borista, Imperial Coffee Stout aged in bourbon barrels. A dark stout. I feel like Gimli would appreciate a good dark stout. Yeah, that's delicious. All right, so I'm going to start in a minute or two, but because of the pace, I'm going to just go back and get a refresher on the last few pages before I get going, because what was happening was I would start the new chapter and be excited about it, but then the problem is I would forget some of the details that are actually important details, and then it would take me a second to catch up. But if I can just skim a few pages before I get there, then it puts me in the right spot. So, you know, the moment I was thinking about a lot was how aware Sam and Frodo are of being chased, kind of, or being stalked. And knowing that Gollum is around, that is strange to me. Like the stakes are higher in a lot of ways. And then, I don't know, it just somehow, it feels more full. The land feels full. Avoiding little towns and knowing that they're on certain paths and, I don't know, just more gritty, more real. A dead end. Lead me as long as you've got any hope left. Mine is gone. But I can't dash, Sam. Oh, man. Yeah, Sam, he's got hope for days. Good man, good man. After doing some 12 miles, they haunted the Eisenmuth 20 miles away. Sylvia, you're right. They did used to put messages inside certain things. I feel like you'd open up a soda can or not a can, a bottle, and it would say something underneath. or I don't know if other countries did this, but we have Snapple. And if that's even available in other places, I don't know if they did Snapple Facts, where underneath it would give you a little fact. And maybe if I'm remembering correctly, some of those facts were in the form of trivia, or maybe I'm confusing it with Dum Dum Lollipops, where it would give you like, it was like a question and answer. Oh no, I know what I'm thinking of. The popsicles. It would be like a popsicle, and the stick that you would see would be like a joke or a riddle or a question, trivia or something. And then when you're done eating the popsicle, it would reveal the answer to the joke or riddle or trivia, which is kind of fun. Kind of fun. And speaking of, I saw that my local bar was doing Lord of the Rings trivia. It was on the 11th, so I missed it. And I was curious what kind of trivia, because sometimes I feel like, oh yeah, I'd crush Lord of the Rings trivia. But then when I'm hanging out with you guys, I think, oh, I know nothing about any of this. So if it was a trivia that was focused on movies, I think I could do okay. I could keep up with the average person maybe, who enjoyed the movies, maybe a little beyond that. But when it comes to book stuff, I know nothing. So it depends on what that trivia would be about. Oh, Ruth, good feedback. It was better before I turned it down. Well, then you know what? I'm going to turn it back up. I just see on my side, sometimes it goes a little red, but then I also think when I'm way up close, I don't want to be too loud. But if I'm the reasonable distance away, maybe this is how it's supposed to be. But keep me included in this if you need me to go up or down. Whoa, Ken, good morning. Ken Takanami, I guess it would be good morning for you, huh? Mr. Past the Dateline, is that how that goes? Maybe Japanese? And good morning. Good way to start the morning, honestly. Little shout out to Lizzie. I saw her channel that somehow she was keeping hidden from me, and she was smoking a pipe. Elizabeth elaborates. I haven't watched any of the videos yet, but I do want to go watch her videos because I want to hear her elaborate, and see her smoke a pipe, and then I'm going to have her show me how to smoke a pipe, since I got a pipe for my birthday a few years ago. I only used it once. And that was under the supervision of someone who's qualified. So I think Lizzie is going to be my new qualified supervisor when it comes to the pipe smoking ways. Because it comes up so many times in these chapters that it just feels so right. In fact, I feel like by the time I get to certain chapters, I can't just finish by myself. No offense, guys, of course, with you. But like, maybe I need a little more ceremony to it. Got to get together with John and Lizzie and finish as a group maybe, which was really fun to do in some of the key moments of Harry Potter as well. All right, sorry, back to it. They're far away. Okay. And they had that little trouble trying to get away from the group they were with. Perfect distraction. Then where's that whip? A nice freshener now. Then they'd gone miles. Frodo's losing strength. Sam is trying to help him. The entrance to Udun. And then Sam's encouraging. With a last despairing effort, Frodo raised himself on his hands and struggled on for maybe 20 yards. Then he pitched down to a shallow pit that opened unexpectedly before them. And there he lay like a dead thing. Ooh. One more crawl. Out of range of the torchlight. So they're still in that weird zone. Yeah, it's even more dire than I remembered. I was probably blocking it out so I wouldn't be traumatized as I wait for this next chapter. All right. There he lay like a dead thing. Not an encouraging way. All right, before we get started, let's make sure. Whoa, Mount Doom. Again, I know I read this last time, but I refuse to believe it almost. Could we possibly get to Mount Doom today? And how long are we spending in Mount Doom? I think some authors might spend an entire chapter within Frodo's mind in Mount Doom as he debates his options, it doesn't feel like the JRR way. All right, let's see. Wow, 5 a.m. doing a long distance drive. Way to go. Love this. Happy driving over there, Ken. Glad we can be part of your drive. Thailand. Whoa, awesome. Love Thailand. I took a very long bus ride in Thailand one time. In high school, you could not be topped by the trivia. Whoa. I got to get up on my timeline. I mean, granted, Rusty, I don't know how old you are. So maybe I just assumed a certain amount of similar age where you said nothing past the Silmarillion was published. So that's pretty incredible, regardless of when that was, because I don't even know when that was. Really cool, because you could have the whole canon right there. That feels so accessible. But now I feel like I don't even know all the things because I don't want to do too much digging yet. But the canon has certainly expanded past that. That much I do know. Oh, thanks, Sylvia, for the confirmation. Glad it's a good volume now. Yeah, can't have anyone straining to listen, you know? And I don't want you turning your volume all the way up, and then you go to watch another video or something later, and then it blasts you in the ears. Toast and tomato soup. All right. Unsliced frozen bread. You could toast it up, though. Oh, you got to thaw it. You microwave it, you slice it, you toast it. Anyway, distracted. So back then, you only had Hobbit, Lord of the Rings. Oh, Jen. Welcome. Oh, also try this beer while you're here.
All right.
She likes some beer. I don't think she's going to like this one. Jen, for everybody.
I don't know where the camera is.
Oh, there, right there.
Oh, hey, guys.
How do you like it? Bourbon barrel aged stout.
It's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I just
I'm
need
surprised.
It a little colder.
Yeah, well, room temperature sometimes is the way.
That's supposed to be for those guys.
Yeah, for these fancy beers.
Yeah, try just like coffee and chocolate.
Sorry for the distraction, guys. But yeah, some of you remember Jen from the Lord of the Rings days. I mean, from the Harry Potter days. Some of you guys don't remember all that. She's my wife. And if you go to the very beginning, back then she was just a friend. You could follow our whole journey. How'd Calvin do?
Yeah.
He's asleep?
He is now sleeping.
Excellent.
We'll see.
Good.
All
Now,
right,
if you want more beer,
try.
come on back.
I mean, I'll just take one more sip.
We're about to start Mount Doom. Big things are happening. No spoilers, though. I know you're still catching up.
Yeah, it's gonna be a long time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, enjoy your read.
Alrighty.
Guys. Bye, guys.
All right. So, all right, let me see. Did I miss anything else? Parents didn't have a copy, always out at the library. Oh, I know that struggle. All right. Tolkien only did Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, Adventures of Tom Bombadil. I forgot about that one. The Road Goes Ever On. Is that another like short story or something? Then Silmarillion. Then other things. But Silmarillion was also Christopher Tolkien. I feel like you've even told me this before, but some part of my brain is kind of a little trying to block it out because I almost want to just stay in this zone until I'm ready for it. And then John's going to be my guide through all that, whatever comes next. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. All right, let's do this thing. Oh, I'll pass along your hellos to Jen later. I mean, she knows you're all saying hi. Mount Doom. Sam put his ragged orc cloak under his master's head and covered them both with the gray robe of Lorien. Good move, good move. Those robes have come in handy many times. And as he did so, his thoughts went out to that fair land and to the elves, and he hoped that the cloth woven by their hands might have some virtue to keep them hidden beyond all hope in this wilderness of fear. He hoped in a land beyond all hope. Well, not beyond all hope, Sam, because you hoped. You hoped that the cloth might have some virtue. So not beyond all hope. And Sam brings that hope with him everywhere. I love this. He heard the scuffling and cries die down as the troops passed on through the Eisenmuth. It seemed that in the confusion and the mingling of many companies of various kinds, they had not been missed. Not yet, at any rate. All right, I don't love yet, but I like that so far they're feeling good. Sam took a sip of water. I forgot they were able to refill, stock up a little bit, but pressed Frodo to drink. And when his master had recovered a little, he gave him a whole wafer of their precious way bread and made him eat it. Then, too worn out to feel much fear, they stretched themselves out. They slept a little in uneasy fits, for their sweat grew chill on them, and the hard stones bit them, and they shivered. Out of the north, from the Black Gate, through Cirith Gorgor, there flowed whispering along the ground a thin, cold air. That feels specific. I can't tell if this is a little bit of foreshadowing or something else, but out of the north, I'm pulling up my little map here, which I think got a little bit of a revamp. Because of my audio issues, I won't try to share my screen now because I didn't set up that other scene. But the map had an overlay of the size compared to Europe, which I found fascinating for many reasons. It gave a great scale for size, and it helps you wrap your mind around how far they actually have to go. Even once they're in Mordor, the size, everything feels big. But then at the same time, it got my juices flowing a little bit about, somebody said at some point, I never did even fact check this, somebody told John, and John told me, that Middle-earth is Earth at another time. So I just can't help but wonder what's going on with this whole thing. If this is the entirety of what we know, there's a lot more on this planet of Earth, I think, or Earth-sized planet. So anyway, it shows big scale. It's a lot of ground to cover for people walking in the Fellowship and Sam and Frodo now. But it also leaves so much more to be explored. I want to know what's going on in the rest of the whole planet. Anyway, side note. So if they are doing something, I'm zooming in here. It's not giving a lot of detail like the Christopher Tolkien map. I might be overthinking. Out of the north, through Cirith Gorgor, whispering along the ground, a thin, cold air. All right. Oh, that is entirely true. Wow. Oh, yeah, let me catch up. Road Goes Ever On with a composer. Oh, whoa, cool. Poems to music? How have I not heard that? That's awesome. Nice. Very cool. I'll have to listen to that. Sarah, sorry your internet's not doing so hot today. We'll enjoy the stream. It'll be posted. You can catch up, but we'll miss you. We like having you on here. Thanks for confirming that's true. So yeah, the maps aren't going to match up. This isn't, I'm not saying this is going to match up with a piece of land, but it just makes me wonder if this is Earth and they're going to the Grey Havens and then out to the west. Where are the elves going? Are they making a journey to America, or are they making a journey to Russia? Like, depending on where this would be. Anyway, ancient Earth, very interesting. Whoa. Wow. Deep lore. The northwest of Middle-earth is what would become Europe, roughly. Ooh, wow. That's awesome. All right, cool. In the morning, a gray light came again, for in the high regions of the west wind, the west wind still blew. But down on the stones behind the fence of the black land, the air seemed almost dead, chill and yet stifling. Sam looked out of the hollow. The land all about was dreary, flat, drab-hued. Better lighting. On the roads nearby, nothing was moving now, but Sam feared the watchful eyes on the wall of the Eisenmuth, no more than a furlong away northward. How long is a furlong? Oh, 220 yards? All right, that's even less than I thought. Okay. For us Americans, we'd say 2 football fields. Okay. So they're very close. Yeah, that is not a comfortable distance. Southeastward, far off, like a dark standing shadow, loomed the mountain. Smokes were pouring from it, and while those that rose into the upper air trailed away eastward, great rolling clouds floated down its sides and spread over the land. A few miles to the northeast, the foothills of the Ashen Mountains stood like somber gray ghosts, behind which the misty northern heights rose like a line of distant clouds, hardly darker than the lowering sky. Sam tried to guess the distance and to decide what way they ought to take. It looks every step of 50 miles. Ooh, man. Okay, so they really did go farther north. Because I guess if they're that close, my goodness, they've got to go all the way back, and Frodo can hardly make a step. He muttered gloomily, staring at the threatening mountains, and that'll take a week, if it takes a day, with Mr. Frodo as he is. He shook his head, and as he worked things out slowly, a new dark thought grew in his mind. Never for long had hope died in his staunch heart, and always until now he had taken some thought for their return. But the bitter truth came home to him at last. Dark thoughts are new for Sam. Well, like I said, if they came, they didn't last long. No, Sam, not dark thoughts. The bitter truth came home to him at last. The truth is like how he feels, not the truth like J.R.R. giving us hint at things. No, they wouldn't divert too much from the movies to the book, would they? Well, you know what? That's what I love about this. I actually don't know what things they're going to change. But by golly, would I be upset if they changed that. The bitter truth came home to him at last. At best, their provision would take them to their goal. And when the task was done, there they would come to an end, alone, houseless, foodless, in the midst of a terrible desert. There could be no return. Yeah, 50 miles. Yeah, that does put it in perspective. Like, and Mount Doom's in the middle. Like, there's nowhere to go. So I don't know how, like, specific they're thinking. But even if they assume that all evil disappears the moment the ring is destroyed, if it even can be destroyed so simply, then you're 50 miles from anything resembling sustenance, right? Like, this is a barren-looking land, right? That is daunting in all the ways. So that was the job I felt I had to do when I started, thought Sam, to help Mr. Frodo to the last step and then die with him. Oh, it's a question, he's saying, and then die with him. Well, if that is the job, then I must do it. Man, he doesn't take long to think about it. Sam's the best. But I would dearly like to see Bywater again, and Rosie Cotton, and her brothers, and the Gaffer, and Marigold. All right, that all tracks except Marigold. Who's Marigold? I don't remember. And all. I can't think somehow that Gandalf would have sent Mr. Frodo on this errand if there hadn't been any hope of his ever coming back at all. Things all went wrong when he went down to Moria. I wish he hadn't. He would have done something. Oh, man, I forgot. Wait, all this time they literally don't know that Gandalf's alive. That's crazy. I love that Sam is saying this, that he doesn't think Gandalf would have asked Frodo to do this unless there was a hope of him coming back. If it was truly hopeless or truly a one-way trip, Sam doesn't believe that Gandalf would have asked Frodo to do it. It's an interesting thought, and it doesn't mean it's true. It's just how Sam views it. I'm going to have to chew on that for a little. What do you guys think? Is that true? Oh, any Marigold things? Sam's sister. Oh, okay. That could make sense. Oh, yeah, nice. Epic poems. Yeah, this is a hard time. Absolutely. Oh, and we're getting some confirmation. Sam's sister. I totally forgot. Okay. I guess in the movies we don't see a lot of that, but he has a sister. Older or younger? I'm just trying to guess based on his personality. Maybe younger. He's got very protective, nurturing qualities about him. But he seems I don't know. It's given us a lot to think about here. He would have done something. But even as hope died in Sam, or seemed to die, it was turned to a new strength. See, that's what makes Sam so great. Even hope dying, he uses to renew his strength and to help Frodo. And Sam's plain hobbit face grew stern, almost grim, as the will hardened in him, and he felt through all his limbs a thrill, as if he was turning into some creature of stone and steel that neither despair nor weariness nor endless barren miles could subdue. Oh, that's so great. Good old Sam. With a new sense of responsibility, he brought his eyes back to the ground near at hand, studying the next move. As the light grew a little, he saw to his surprise that what from a distance had seemed wide and featureless. Flats were in fact all broken and tumbled. Indeed, the whole surface of the plains of Gorgoroth was pocked with great holes, as if while it was still a waste of soft mud, it had been smitten with a shower of bolts and huge sling stones. The largest of these holes were rimmed with ridges of broken rock, and broad fissures ran out from them in all directions. It was a land in which it would be possible to creep from hiding to hiding. Okay, that's good. Unseen on all but the most watchful eyes. Possible at least for one who was strong and had no need for speed. For the hungry and worn who had far to go before life failed, it had an evil look. Okay, so a little optimistic, but maybe not for them. Thinking of all these things, Sam went back to his master. He had no need to rouse him. Frodo was lying on his back with eyes open, staring at the cloudy sky. Well, Mr. Frodo, said Sam, I've been having a look around and thinking a bit. There's nothing on the roads, and we'd best be getting away while there's still a chance. Can you manage it? I can manage it, said Frodo. I must. All right, I'm glad he got a little more energy here. I have a feeling these aren't going to be the last tears in my eyes. Sam's just the best. Once more they started crawling from hollow to hollow, flitting behind such cover as they could find, but moving away in a slant towards the foothills of the northern range. But as they went, the most easterly of the roads followed them until it ran off, hugging the skirts of the mountains, away into a wall of black shadow far ahead. Neither man nor orc now moved along its flat gray stretches, for the Dark Lord had almost completed the movement of his forces, and even in the fastness of his own realm, he sought the secrecy of night, fearing the winds of the world that had turned against him, tearing aside his veils, and troubled with the tidings of bold spies that had passed through the fences. That also interesting. And I guess the rumors, even rumors of Sam and things going around, like elves are coming through, and now they're approaching the Black Gate. He might be actually fearful that there's more going on here, that he's not as powerful as he thinks. Yeah, he's actually a little scared. That is interesting. It's poking at him. The hobbits had gone a few weary miles when they halted. Frodo seemed nearly spent. Sam saw that he could not go much further in this fashion, crawling, stooping, now picking a doubtful way very slowly, now hurrying and stumbling at a stumbling run. I'm going back on the road while the light lasts, Mr. Frodo, he said. Trust to luck again. It nearly failed us last time, but it didn't quite. A steady pace for a few more miles and then a rest. He was taking a far greater risk than he knew, but Frodo was too much occupied with his burden and with the struggle in his mind to debate, and almost too hopeless to care. They climbed onto the causeway and trudged along down the hard, cruel road that led to the Dark Tower itself. Ooh, that is not a good road to be on. He was taking a far greater risk than he knew. What's going to happen? Or, well, the risk was greater, but what is the risk they're talking about? Gollum finding them? A ring wraith finding them? Like, did they narrowly miss something else? Or are there more orcs that they didn't know were going to be coming up that either they're going to discover or they'll never even find out how close they were to, like, how great of a risk this was? Oh, you know, that's a good point too, Snow. I'm just catching up here. Sam views it like Gandalf sent Frodo on this errand, but it was the Council of Elrond. It was everyone. It wasn't, and Frodo volunteered. You know, it's not, you can't take that away from Frodo, but maybe he's saying on some level, either Sam doesn't fully understand it, or he's saying on some level, if Gandalf wouldn't have even had him leave the Shire unless there was some hope. No, but he's talking about going all the way to Mordor. He maybe is just saying that Gandalf would not have supported this with the way the Fellowship was set up unless he knew there was a chance of return. But yeah, that is interesting. It almost feels like Sam doesn't have the fullest understanding. Marigold is the youngest. Sam is second youngest, older than her by 3 years. Wow, you guys know your stuff. It had to be a voluntary quest. There was little hope to begin with. And I feel like we did hear them say that, or I'm thinking, at least in the movie that's said, and I'm pretty sure it was also said in the books, there never was much hope. Gandalf, Aragorn, and Legolas, maybe when they're looking out, when he comes back as Gandalf the White, they have a conversation like that. But there is hope. No one sent them, really. True. But it is funny that Sam has that idea, because even in their volunteering, and Sam volunteered too, on some level, they don't view it as volunteering. Maybe on some level, they still felt sent. There was maybe some kind of pressure. Sam didn't view Frodo as volunteering or choosing or saying, I'm doing this no matter what. Sam still views it as Gandalf's nudge or sending, like, which is interesting. I'm curious how that pressure was in Frodo's mind. Did Frodo feel like it was truly his choice, or was he doing it for Gandalf, for other people, or kind of for everyone anyway? They couldn't force anyone. They were volunteers. So the thing, Ruth, you're saying, it's a major road in Mordor. They didn't realize how major it was, so that's the great risk. A suicidal attack. He can assume it's the ring making him prideful. Possible. Yes, okay. That makes sense. Oh, interesting. Technically, Sam didn't volunteer because he overheard them, and then Gandalf did rope Sam in. I'd have to look back at the specifics of that conversation, but you're right. It was a little less volunteering than Frodo. But you know what? Even if he didn't volunteer at that point, when they left the Shire, but what did Gandalf say to him, and how far was he committed to being with Frodo? And was the expectation that it was only to Rivendell? Because Elrond in Rivendell did say, there is no pressure here. You know, everyone is here of their own volition and they can leave. And, you know, however he worded that, I think that was like an extra thing to say, hey, you're all volunteers. Maybe I'd have to read it again, but again, second time read, that's where some of the gems come out, because I can read some of that with a new perspective. Okay. It's the road that led to the Dark Tower itself. But their luck held, and for the rest of that day, they met no living or moving thing, and when night fell, they vanished into the darkness of Mordor. All the land now brooded as at the coming of a great storm. For the captains of the west had passed to the crossroads and set flames in the deadly fields of Imlad Morgul. Flames in the deadly fields. So I guess that's like camps of armies waiting. Maybe that's what it means. But I'm glad they're in empty lands. It's like, well, it's depressing and sad as far as food or anything like that. But maybe in these circumstances, that's what they always expected, and at least there's no evil. So the desperate journey went on. As the ring went south, and the banners of the kings rode north, for the hobbits each day, each mile was more bitter than the one before, as their strength lessened and the land became more evil. They met no enemies by day. At times, by night, as they cowered or drowsed uneasily in some hiding beside the road, they heard cries and the noise of many feet, or the swift passing of some cruelly ridden steed. Whoa, weird. So armies are still going, but by night, like we heard before. But far worse than all such perils was the ever-approaching threat that beat upon them as they went. The dreadful menace of the power that waited, brooding in deep thought and sleepless malice behind the dark veil about its throne. Nearer and nearer it drew, looming blacker, like the oncoming wall of night at the last end of the world. Ooh. The dreadful menace of power that waited. Sleepless malice. This is talking about the ring, right? Waiting for, like, that is the... It's far worse than anything there is the power of the ring waiting. This isn't talking about Sauron, right? This is talking about the ring specifically and what it... Okay. I guess either way, it doesn't make a huge difference. It's just the idea of you're in Mordor. I'm glad you can view the positive and you can, hide from cruelly ridden steeds and many feet passing, but there's bigger evil to worry about. There came at last a dreadful nightfall, and even as the captains of the west drew near to the end of the living lands, the two wanderers came to an hour of blank despair. 4 days had passed since they had escaped from the orcs, but the time lay behind them like an ever-darkening dream. All this last day, Frodo had not spoken, but had walked, half bowed, often stumbling, as if his eyes no longer saw the way before his feet. As if his eyes no longer saw. Often stumbling. So is he just getting in the zone or getting his own thoughts? Or is this like the weird thing that didn't seem to come up in the movies, but like he's actually losing his sight? Which was a little confusing because his sight was sharpened at times. But when they were in... Wait, am I right to say the Emyn with all those rocks when they were before the Dead Marshes? They were in all the rocks, and at some point he lowered down, and it was pitch black, and it was a little weird. He was losing his sight, like he couldn't see, but it felt like non-normal. I'm curious if this is that kind of losing sight. You're right. It is interesting that the throne is capitalized. All right, Sleepless Malice, Sauron. Okay, in Barad-dûr. And so it's really just about what he is doing and how he's more dangerous than any of this. Whoa. The burden of the ring, he's being drawn so much that he sees nothing else. So Frodo is, whether truly physically his eyes or whether just mentally, he's so distracted by this drawing of the ring. He's not even noticing where he's stepping. Wow. Time lay behind them like an ever-darkening dream. Among all their pains, Sam guessed that among all their pains, he bore the worst, the growing weight of the ring, a burden on the body and a torment to his mind. Anxiously, Sam had noted how his master's left hand would often be raised as if to ward off a blow or to screen his shrinking eyes from a dreadful eye that sought to look in them. And sometimes his right hand would creep to his breast, clutching, and then slowly, as the will recovered mastery, it would be withdrawn. His left hand would be raised, and then he'd clutch with his right. Wow, oh my goodness. Now, as the blackness of night returned, Frodo sat, his head between his knees, his arms hanging wearily to the ground, where his hand lay feebly twitching. Sam watched him, till night covered them both and hid them from one another. He could no longer find any words to say, and he turned to his own dark thoughts. As for himself, though weary and under a shadow of fear, he still had some strength left. The Lembas had a virtue without which they would long ago have lain down to die. Wow, interesting to give it so specifically, to give that credit to the Lembas, obviously, and to the elves. It did not satisfy desire, and at times Sam's mind was filled with the memories of food and the longing for simple bread and meats. And yet this way bread of the elves had a potency that increased as travelers relied on it alone, and did not mingle it with other foods. Ooh, had a potency that increased when travelers relied on it alone, unmingled. It fed the will, and it gave strength to endure, and to master sinew and limb beyond the measure of mortal kind. Wow. Lembas power is no joke. Very fascinating. It did not satisfy desire, but he still is acknowledging that it did a lot else. Okay. But now a new decision must be made. They could not follow this road any longer, for it went on eastward to the great shadow, but the mountain now loomed upon their right. All right, they're not on the road that I'm seeing. Actually, that would make sense. No, they're on a different road because it's not one of the ones that I'm seeing on my, very high up map. The road is going eastward. The mountain's on their right. They don't want to go east. They're close enough now where they need to go south and let the road keep going east. Okay. Whoa, interesting. Purina Elf Chow, nice. Performance enhancing, absolutely. I never realized the spiritual comparison they were making. I know JRR was a spiritual guy, but I haven't done a lot of research on that yet. Wow. Mordor is a crazy land. It is, it's weighty to read it, You really do feel this. Well, that's to the credit of J.R.R. and his writing. John is good at this stuff because he knows literary things. I feel like it sometimes jumps around. There was a moment, well, for all I know, John made a whole video about this. Last paragraph. There came at last a dreadful nightfall, and even as the captains of the West drew near the end of the living lands, the two wanderers came to an hour of blank despair. For whatever reason, that language of the two wanderers, like spoken from a distance, like a narrator who's like almost as a lack of familiarity, like the two wanderers. I don't know, something about that just felt funny to me. Like that that wording, it felt a little jarring. Like it almost made Frodo and Sam feel farther away with that kind of wording. Like even the story, even the narrating that theoretically was, I guess I'm having a hard time breaking it down, from J.R.R. or Frodo later when he's writing this story, I think, or Sam or whoever. But interesting that even some of the wording here makes them feel farther away to me. The mountain now loomed on their right, almost due south, and they must turn towards it. And yet before it, there stretched a wide region of fuming, barren, ash-ridden land. Water, water, muttered Sam. He had stinted himself, and in his parched mouth his tongue seemed thick and swollen. But for all his care, they now had very little left. Perhaps half his bottle. And maybe there were still days to go. All would long ago have been spent. If they had not dared to follow the Orc road, oh yeah, fair. So they made a good call then. For at long intervals on that highway, cisterns had been built for the use of troops sent in haste through the waterless regions. In one, Sam had found some water left, stale, muddied by the Orcs, but still sufficient for their desperate case. Yet that was now a day ago. There was no hope of any more. Again, no hope. But interesting, again, that there's another little perk of these orc roads. I'm glad orcs consume the same water that the hobbits need. At last, wearied with his cares, Sam drowsed, leaving the morrow till it came. He could do no more. Dream and waking mingled uneasily. He saw lights like gloating eyes, and dark creeping shapes, and he heard noises of wild beasts, or the dreadful cries of tortured things, and he would start up to find the world all dark and only empty blackness all about him. Once only, as he stood and stared wildly around, did it seem that, though now awake, he could still see pale lights like eyes, but soon they flickered and vanished. Yeah. Sounds like a Gollum sighting if I've ever seen one. Now awake. I am curious, though, like the gloating eyes, dark creeping shapes, like, is that his own mental state or just one of the other evils of Mordor? Can't even have any pleasant dreams. Like, how nice would that be if, their leaves that they have, or their cloaks, or the lembas, or anything else, or just naturally, they sleep and have a dream of the Shire. Something that could renew their strength a little bit. No such luck. The hateful night passed slowly and reluctantly. Such daylight as followed was dim. For here, as the mountain drew near, and the air was ever murky, while out from the dark tower there crept the veils of shadow that Sauron wove about himself. Like just dark. Okay. Frodo was lying on his back, not moving. Sam stood behind him, reluctant to speak, and yet knowing that the word now lay with him. He must set his master's will to work for another effort. At length, stooping and caressing Frodo's brow, he spoke in his ear. "Wake up, master," he said. "Time for another start." As if roused by a sudden bell, Frodo rose quickly and stood up and looked away southward. But when his eyes beheld the mountain and the desert, he quailed again. "I can't manage it, Sam," he said. "It's such a weight to carry, such a weight." I wonder what he saw when he looked south. Well, I guess it tells us what he saw. What did he think he was going to see? It sounds like he almost had hope for a second of seeing something else. And then that discouraged him. Like, was he dreaming something? No, he couldn't be dreaming pleasant dreams with the ring so close. I don't know. Yeah, that's a weird one. Because it sounds like he got up quickly and ready, But then he like remembered where he was and then was like, oh wait, oh no, I can't do it. Sam knew before he spoke that it was vain, and that such words might do more harm than good. But in his pity, he could not keep silent. He couldn't keep silent. What's he going to say? Ooh. Then let me carry it a bit for you, master, he said. You know I would, and gladly, as long as I have any strength. Ooh. Ah, yeah. He did it before. And it's one of the things I think about when I'm going to sleep. Just Frodo's role. Can Sam carry the ring? How far would he have been able to? He held it for a while and did okay. You know what I mean? Would it have been wrong for him to carry it now? Is it something, I don't know, like, is this coming from a place of bad or good when he says this? Is Sam so purely good that he genuinely wants to just help Frodo and could carry the ring without issue? Or is this some kind of evil stirring in him that makes him want the ring and it's making him say it? Such words, I believe, did do more harm than good. But in his pity, he could not keep silent. So it still was coming from pity, but he knew, even before he spoke. A wild light came into Frodo's eyes. Stand away, don't touch me, he cried. It is mine, I say, be off. His hand strayed to his sword hilt, but then quickly his voice changed. No, Sam, he said sadly. But you must understand, it is my burden and no one else can bear it. It is too late now, Sam dear. You can't help me in that way again. I am almost in its power now. I could not give it up. And if you tried to take it, I should go mad. You know what? That might be the perfect response. It feels like he had that moment of fury, which reminds me of the Bilbo response. Then, Frodo saw it in the movie, made it a little bit more, a little extreme, maybe. But it's just that idea of like, he just seems like a quick reaction of chaos. And then he's actually being logical and saying, I'm almost in its power now. So it almost feels like Frodo is being wise in this. Maybe he's already gone mad and he thinks he's like, I'm almost in its power, but he's really in its power already. But he at least could be trying to save Sam and say, look, I have to do it. It's my burden. Like, you don't even know what you're asking right now. Sam nodded. I understand, he said. But I've been thinking, Mr. Frodo. Ooh, don't say but. There's other things we might do without. Oh. Why not lighten the load a bit? We're going that way now, as straight as we can make it. He pointed to the mountain. It's no good taking anything we're not sure to need. That's wise. Now, is he going to mention a path back? I'm curious if within this chapter, if his mindset will shift from we may not make it back to, yeah, but on the way back, after we're done with all this, right? We can come back this way. We'll go north afterwards and we'll grab this stuff on our way out of Mordor, right? Frodo looked again towards the mountain. No, he said, we shan't need much on that road. And at its end, nothing. Picking up his orc shield, he flung it away and threw his helmet after it. They were still carrying an orc shield? Oh, yeah, I feel like they should have dropped that a while ago. But I guess on some level they were still worried about having to blend in or pretend to be an orc. Oh, it sounds like a nightmare. A helmet and shield, lugging it around in this crazy land. Whoa. Bilbo was able to follow Gollum from the glow of his eyes. It's intense. Gandalf said the ring would get to him through his desire to help others. Yeah, that sums it up. He could bear it when it mattered. Good intention. Ooh, yeah, you're right, Ower. You're right. no matter what the intention, ultimately bad. Yep, David, you're right. Oof. Yeah, and Gollum is haunting them, absolutely. And I'm surprised Gollum hasn't made moves. Like in moments like that, is he just too worried? In the back of his mind, does he have those moments? Again, I'm going to say Em and Mule. That's where it was, right? Where they're in the rocks and Gollum was creeping, but then they pretended to be asleep, but they weren't, and then they got him. And maybe that was perfect because in these moments, he's worried. He doesn't want to get too close, but he's still creeping, waiting for his moment. And when they're asleep, he's like, are they? Or is Sam being sly and keeping one eye open? And threw his helmet after it. Then pulling off the gray cloak, he undid the heavy belt and let it fall to the ground. And the sheathed sword with it. Oh, speaking of Gollum, maybe at least keep a sword, right? And this is Frodo. So is that Sting? The sheath, or is that the orc sword? Did they carry an orc sword? The shreds of the black cloak he tore off and scattered. Pulling off the gray cloak. Is the gray cloak the elven cloak? I think of it as being more green, but that might be movie stuff. There, I'll be an orc no more, he cried, and I'll bear no weapon, fair or foul. Let them take me if they will. Sam did likewise, and put aside his orc gear, and he took out all of the things in his pack. Somehow, each of them had become dear to him, if only because he had borne them for so far with so much toil. Hardest of all, it was to part with his cooking gear. Tears welled in his eyes at the thought of casting it away. Yeah, I'm a pretty sentimental guy, so I understand that. And done a lot of backpacking. So by the end of a trip, every shirt is hard to get rid of. And even now, I'm like, it's 10 years ago since I used some of these shirts, but I can't. There are memories in these shirts. Backpacking around the world in these things. So I do understand that feeling. You grow connected to every item because of the memories and how far you've come. And it's funny that the cooking gear meant so much to him. But man, carrying that around, are they going to come back this way? Are they going to? No, they won't. I don't know. Do you remember that bit of rabbit, Mr. Frodo? He said. And our place under the warm bank of in Captain Faramir's country, the day I saw an Oliphant. No, I'm afraid not, Sam, said Frodo. Oh my word. At least I know that such things happened, but I cannot see them. No taste of food, no feel of water, no sound of wind, no memory of tree or grass or flower. No image of moon or star are left to me. I am naked in the dark, Sam, and there is no veil between me and the wheel of fire. I begin to see it even with my waking eyes, and all else fades. Oh my goodness. This is the bleakest we have seen. He doesn't even remember some of the things they went through. And not just that, he can't even remember what anything happy looks like. He can't remember he's just naked in the dark. He's exposed and in nothingness. Oh my goodness. Sam went to him and kissed his hand. Then the sooner we're rid of it, the sooner to rest, he said, haltingly, finding no better words to say. Talking won't mend nothing, he muttered to himself, as he gathered up all the things that they had chosen to cast away. Oh, I was like, he's not gathering these again, right? He was not willing to leave them lying open in the wilderness for any eyes to see. Fair point. Stinker picked up that orc shirt, seemingly, and he isn't going to add a sword to it. His hands are bad enough when empty, and he isn't going to mess with my pans. With that, he carried all the gear away to one of the many gaping fissures that scored the land and threw them in. The clatter of his precious pans as they fell down into the dark, was like a death knell to his heart. That's hard. So he wasn't even saying there's a hope to come back. He didn't want them falling into evil hands, specifically Gollum's, and he would rather they clatter to the bottom of some dark pit. Poor Sam. It sounds like Qwerty and some others might have some Some pan love. Nobody's messing with my pans. Yeah, anyone else have pans that they get stressed when other people use them? And oh man, if they pick up a metal thing to throw on there, don't you dare scrape my pan. Wouldn't only get that bamboo spatula. Whoa. Levine, you did this with your 9-year-old. Heavy chapter for a 9-year-old. I respect that, though. This is a good one. And welcome. Thanks for joining. Yeah, I mean, but man, getting rid of these pans sounds stressful, but also they sound really heavy. So good on him for getting rid of these. And again, I feel like it's the mission. It's just another sacrifice he's making for the mission. And speaking of sacrifices and letting things go, Bill the pony. I hope we see him again. A death knell to his heart. He came back to Frodo, and then of his elven rope he cut a short piece to serve his master as a girdle and bind the gray cloak. Oh, good. So I thought he took the gray cloak. Good. He kept the gray cloak, but he took the belt off that had the sword on it. And then he's binding the gray cloak. Okay, good. Elven cloak, I think. Close about his waist. The rest he carefully coiled and put back in his pack. Okay, good move. Beside that, he kept only the remnants of their way bread and the water bottle, and Sting still hanging by his belt. Sam had Sting. Oh, thank goodness. That was a close one. Great move for many reasons. And hidden away in his pocket of his tunic, next his breast, the phial of Galadriel and the little box that she gave him for his own. The dirt box. So good. All right, good. I love that he's like, I don't need anything except elf things. Anything an elf gave me, I will keep forever. Yes. Good. Now at last they turned their faces to the mountain and set out, thinking no more of concealment, bending their weariness and failing wills only to the one task of going on. In the dimness of its dreary day, few things even on that land of vigilance could have espied them, save from close at hand. Of all the slaves of the Dark Lord, only the Nazgul could have warned him of the peril that crept, small but indomitable, into the very heart of his guarded realm. But the Nazgul didn't, I think. But the Nazgul and their black wings were abroad on other errand. Good. They were gathered far away, shadowing the march of the captains of the West, and thither the thought of the Dark Tower was turned. So the Dark Tower, super focused on the march of the captains of the West. Oh, I was mishearing the captains of the West, thinking that was dumb. Thinking that meant orcs and in Mordor going up to the Black Gate, but that meant captains of the West, obviously the humans and the people to the west of Mordor, Aragorn and his dudes going up to the Black Gate from Gondor. That makes so much more sense. But in my head, I was picturing that's what it meant. Okay. And I guess the Dark Tower, Sauron, so distracted by all of that, and his Nazgul as well, they did not even look back there. They could have seen them too. Only the Nazgul could have, in the heart of his guarded realm. But they were busy. They were distracted. The distraction worked. Interesting. I like that they're marching not that far away from Pippin, just on the other side of the mountains. Yeah, closest they've been in a while. Hey, Thomas. Welcome. Yeah, I like that we get some of these lines, that the bait did work exactly as they planned, that Sauron focused on them. Like the plan is actually working. It's actually like this is what they wanted, and it is already justifying this act of sacrifice and distraction. That day, it seemed to Sam that his master had found some new strength, more than could be explained by the small lightening of the load that he had to carry. But how? Tell me, please. In the first marches, they went further and faster than he had hoped. The land was rough and hostile, and yet they made much progress, and ever the mountain drew nearer. But as the day wore on, and all too soon the dim light began to fail, Frodo stooped again and began to stagger. As the day wore on, and all too soon the light. So is his pep in his step coming from the light? And the darkness causes him to stoop in this dark and dreary land, as if the renewed effort had squandered his remaining strength. I'm thinking of a time in Iceland where I was with my friend Mark, and we saw a bunch of cars gathered on the side of the road, and we didn't do a lot of planning on this trip. It was a while ago. And we thought, well, if cars are gathered, there's got to be something cool. And that thought had already worked for us quite well on 2 epic waterfalls that we found. And so we said, let's just park. But then we knew the ocean was somewhere off to the right on a giant black sand beach. But then, like, way, way in the distance, we could see people walking. And so we started walking after them on this slightly worn path over a black sand beach. But it was such a wide beach that you couldn't tell distance at all. So as we walked, all the mountains seemed the same. It felt like you were just walking forever. And maybe you've seen these pictures. Now it's become an Instagram thing, but back then it wasn't known. There was like a ship, or not a ship, a plane that crashed on this beach at some point. It was like in a training mission or something. And it's an epic plane. You can go like hike out there and take pictures with this plane on a black sand beach. Pretty cool. And we eventually found it. And from a distance, we thought it was like a whale or something. But then same thing. We turn around, go back to our cars. The mountains behind our car, we knew we parked right at the base of them because that's where the road is. But it feels like you walk for a mile and every mountain looks just as far away. So I'm picturing that as Frodo and Sam are walking closer to the mountain. There's no gauge. And at some point you feel like you've made no distance. You're like, I'm as far away from the goal at the end of the day as I was this morning. What was the point of all this? So anyway, just the mental side of all of this, I'm sure, is driving them nuts. And Frodo, in his current state, unimaginable. At their last halt, he sank down and said, I'm thirsty, Sam. Oh, I should say that more quieter. I'm thirsty, Sam, and did not speak again. Sam gave him a mouthful of water. Only one more mouthful remained. He went without himself, and now, as once more the night of Mordor closed over them, through all his thoughts there came the memory of water, and every brook or stream or fount that he had ever seen, under green willow shades or a twinkling in the sun, danced and rippled for his torment behind the blindness of his eyes. He felt the cool mud about his toes as he paddled in the pool at the bywater, with Jolly Cotton and Tom and Nibs and their sister Rosie. Oh, Tom and Nibs are the brothers of Rosie. But that was years ago, he sighed, and far away. The way back, if there is one, goes past the mountain. So he knows they got to go either way. It's funny that he said it tortured him. Oh, it was like torment behind his eyes, these memories. But also, Frodo doesn't have these memories. I feel like it would do some good. Another little sidebar. A show I used to watch when I was a kid, Recess it was called. Animated show, great show, probably just in the States. I don't know if it was elsewhere. And in hindsight, some of the best episodes were kind of just copying movies and things like Good Will Hunting, the movie. They had an episode that was basically that, but in a kid's show, and I had no idea they were ripping off other things. But there was an episode where they were walking in the hot sun, and the whole episode, from my memory, is that they had to walk across the like area where they have recess to get to the other side. And one of the characters tells them stories of playing in a sprinkler or something, something in water, and they're so distracted by the story and his memories of this cool place that they forgot how hot and thirsty and tired they were. So it is maybe a disservice to Sam and Frodo to compare them to an episode of an animated show called Recess. But again, I'm just thinking of these things, making these little comparisons. And Frodo does not have these memories to distract him. There is no distraction. It's just him trapped in darkness, naked in the dark. Ooh. And Sam, he has his memories, and he still views them as a little bit of torment because he doesn't experience it, but he's not understanding the blessing of the distraction either. Nice. I'm glad Recess made it to Canada. Great show. Great show. Interesting. Because Sauron's mind is elsewhere. It made him feel better. Yeah, it is dangerous. He could not sleep, and he held a debate with himself. Well, come now. We've done better than you hoped, he said sturdily. Began well, anyway. I reckon we crossed half the distance before we stopped. One more day will do it. And then he paused. Don't be a fool, Sam Gamgee, came an answer in his own voice. He won't go another day like that, if he moves at all. And you can't go on much longer, giving him all the water and most of the food. I can go on a good way, though, and I will. Where to? To the mountain, of course. But what then, Sam Gamgee? What then? What will you get there? What are you going to do? He won't be able to do anything for himself. To his dismay, Sam realized that he had not got an answer to this. He had no clear idea at all. Frodo had not spoken much to him of his errand, and Sam only knew vaguely that the ring had somehow to be put into the fire. The cracks of doom, he muttered, the old name rising in his mind. Well, if Master knows how to find them, I don't. There you are, came the answer. It's all quite useless, he said. He said so himself. You are the fool going on hoping and toiling. You could have laid down and gone to sleep together days ago, if you hadn't been so dogged. But you'll die just the same or worse. You might just as well lie down now and give it up. You'll never get to the top anyway. I'll get there if I leave everything but my bones behind, said Sam, and I'll carry Mr. Frodo up myself if it breaks my back and heart. So stop arguing. What an argument with himself. But I love that he's stubborn even against himself. This is great because it shows that there is a part of him that has some of these doubts that I'm assuming the evil of the land of Mordor and proximity to the ring kind of brings these doubts to the forefront. And then he can talk himself out of it and say, no, I will leave just my bones behind if I must. At that moment, Sam felt a tremor in the ground beneath him, and he heard or sensed a deep remote rumble as of thunder imprisoned under the earth. There was a brief red flame that flickered under the clouds and died away. The mountain, too, slept uneasily. All right, I guess getting close to the mountain, you hear some rumbling. Not so good. Yeah, it's a Gollum argument. You're right. Wow, that's so weird. We haven't sensed a lot of that in Frodo, but I feel like we haven't been as much in his mind as Sam. But that is fascinating. Like, it's that idea of proximity to the ring. Maybe it does this weird thing where it's the two sides of you get separated a little bit more, and you have, I don't know, does it cause this kind of personality thing? I think that's an interesting idea that Sam is starting to give some of that good, bad, split personality Gollum vibe in this moment. Good call. I like that. The last stage of their journey to Orodruin came, and it was a torment greater than Sam had ever thought he could bear. He was in pain, and so parched that he could no longer swallow even a mouthful of food. It remained dark, not only because of the smokes of the mountain. There seemed to be a storm coming up, and away to the southeast. Away to the southeast, there was a shimmer of lightnings under the black skies. Worst of all, The air was full of fumes. Breathing was painful and difficult. And a dizziness came on them, so that they staggered and often fell. And yet their wills did not yield. They struggled on. The mountain crept ever nearer until they lifted their heavy heads. It filled all their sight, looming vast before them, a huge mass of ash and slag-burned stone, all of which a sheer-sided cone was raised into the clouds. Before the day-long dusk ended and true night came again, they had crawled and stumbled to its very feet. With a gasp, Frodo cast himself on the ground. Sam sat by him. To his surprise, he felt tired but lighter, and his head seemed clear again. No more debates, like those Gollum debates, disturbed his mind. He knew all the arguments of despair and would not listen to them. His will was set, and only death would break it. He felt no longer either desire or need of sleep, but rather of watchfulness. He knew that all the hazards and perils were now drawing together to a point. The next day would be a day of doom, the day of final effort or disaster, the last gasp. They're that close. Well, again, I'm not sure like the specifics, but I guess they're close enough to the mountain. Are they imagining having to go to the top? Because that's how I pictured it. You have to go to the very top and I guess go over the edge and toss the ring in. Maybe not a convenient cave entrance at the lower third of the mountain. But either way, I guess Sam can tell from the size of it that one day will be enough. But when would it come? The night seemed endless and timeless, minute after minute, falling dead and adding up to no passing hour, bringing no change. Sam began to wonder if a second darkness had begun and no day would ever reappear. At last he groped for Frodo's hand. It was cold and trembling. His master was shivering. "I didn't ought to have left my blanket behind," muttered Sam, and lying down he tried to comfort Frodo with his arms and body. Then sleep took him, and the dim light of the last day of their quest found them side by side. That's our little confirmation there. The light of the last day of their quest. The wind had fallen the day before as it shifted from the west, and now it came to the north and began to rise. And slowly the light of the unseen sun filtered down into the shadows where the hobbits lay. At least they get some light today. They need that light. He expects to climb to the top. So they're just kind of sitting at the bottom thinking, we got to climb a mountain today. Wow. Yeah, it's daunting. "Now for it. Now for the last gasp," said Sam as he struggled to his feet. He bent over Frodo, rousing him gently. Frodo groaned, but with a great effort of will, he staggered up, and then he fell upon his knees again. He raised his eyes with difficulty to the dark slopes of Mount Doom, towering above him, and then pitifully he began to crawl forward on his hands. Yikes. Sam looked at him and wept in his heart, but no tears came to his dry and stinging eyes. "I said I'd carry him if it broke my back," he muttered, "and I will. Come, Mr. Frodo," he cried. "I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you, and it as well. So up you get. Come on, Mr. Frodo, dear. Sam will give you a ride. Just tell him where to go, and he'll go." Nice. I'm glad that is here. As Frodo clung upon his back, arms loosely about his neck, legs clasped firmly under his arms, Sam staggered to his feet. And then to his amazement, he felt the burden light. He had feared that he would have barely strength to lift his master alone. And beyond that, he had expected to share in the dreadful dragging weight of the accursed ring. Ooh, good point. Like the ring would feel like extra heavy in addition to Frodo. But it was not so. Whether because Frodo was so worn by his long pains, wound of knife, and venomous sting, end sorrow, fear, homeless wandering, or because some gift of final strength was given to him, Sam lifted Frodo with no more difficulty than if he were carrying a hobbit child piggyback on some romp on the lawns or hayfields of the Shire. He took a deep breath and started off. They had reached the mountain's foot on the northern side, and a little to the westward. There its long gray slopes, though broken, were not sheer. Frodo did not speak, and so Sam struggled on as best he could, having no guidance but the will to climb as high as might be before his strength gave out and his will broke. On he toiled, up and up, turning this way and that to lessen the slope, often stumbling forward, and at the last crawling. I saw some blink. What's going on? And at the last crawling like a snail with a heavy burden on its back. When his will could drive him no further and his limbs gave way, he stopped and laid his master gently down. Phew. All right, a good push. I'm curious if... So this is the last of his strength. How much time has passed? Sam's given it his all here. Because again, I'm comparing to the movies all the time. That was the final push when he said that in the movies. But now they're not quite there yet. Frodo opened his eyes and drew a breath. It was easier to breathe up here, above the reeks that coiled and drifted down below. "Thank you, Sam," he said in a cracked whisper. "How far is there to go?" "I don't know," said Sam, "because I don't know where we're going." He looked back, and then he looked up, and he was amazed to see how far his last effort had brought him. The mountain, standing ominous and alone, had looked taller than it was. Sam saw now that it was less lofty than the high passes of the Ephel-Duath, which he and Frodo had scaled. The confused and tumbled shoulders of its great base rose for maybe 3,000 feet above the plains. Whoa, they're getting so specific. 3,000 feet above the plains, and above them was reared, half as high again, its tall central cone. Like a vast oast or chimney capped with a jagged crater. But already Sam was more than halfway up the base, and the plain of Gorgoroth was dim below, wrapped in fume and shadow. As he looked up, he would have given a shout, if his parched throat had allowed him, for amid the rugged humps and shoulders above him, he saw plainly a path or road. It climbed like a rising girdle from the west and wound snake-like about the mountain, until before it went round out of view, it reached the foot of the cone upon its eastern side. I do like that clarity. He's seeing a defined path. That must feel like some kind of hope in a moment like this. Weird hope, but... Thanks, QWERTY, for the little comparison here. So not a massive mountain, but still a long walk. And Hobbit-sized, of course. Yeah. Sam could not see the course immediately above him, where it was lowest, for a steep slope went up from where he stood. But he guessed that if he could only struggle on just a little way further up, they would strike this path. A gleam of hope returned to him. So he lost some hope there, but he's getting it back. He's good at that. Sam's good at renewing this hope. They might conquer the mountain yet. Why, it might have been put there a purpose, he said to himself. If it wasn't there, I'd have to say I was beaten in the end. The path was not put there for the purposes of Sam. He did not know it, but he was looking at Sauron's road from Barad-dûr to the Sammath Naur, the Chambers of Fire. Whoa, I didn't know they had a name. Out from the Dark Tower's huge western gate, it came over a deep abyss by a vast bridge of iron. Ooh. And then, passing into the plain, it ran for leagues between two smoking chasms, and so reached a long sloping causeway that led up onto the mountain's eastern side. Thence, turning and encircling all its wide girth from south to north, it climbed at last. high in the upper cone, but still far from the reeking summit, to a dark entrance that gazed back east, straight to the window of the eye. In Sauron's shadow-mantled fortress, often blocked or destroyed by the tumults of the mountain's furnaces, always that road was repaired and cleared again by the labors of countless orcs. Was Sauron going here sometimes? Why would you build all of this just for like... I'm curious about some of the Sauron stuff. It's like, is he making this trip often that they need to keep it clear? Why the why do they need that? Is there power in this mountain alone, or is it? Well, I'm just curious. It's I didn't know there was this direct path and a huge iron bridge. Yeah, it's like to his little workshop. Yeah, direct path. He used the volcanic fire for smithcraft. I'm curious what other things he smithcrafted. Sam drew a deep breath. There was a path, but how he was to get up the slope to it, he did not know. First, he must ease his aching back. He lay flat beside Frodo for a while. Neither spoke. Slowly the light grew. Suddenly a sense of urgency, which he did not understand, came to Sam. It was almost as if he had been called. Now, or it will be too late. He braced himself and got up. Who called him? First thought, Galadriel. Because when they were in Cirith Ungol, there were moments there where they had some whispered guidance from far off, and I feel like if it was a familiar voice like Gandalf, but Galadriel's a little familiar, but I feel like it would have been said differently. Although Gandalf the White, my voice might be different. I'm still going to say Galadriel. Elrond's not out of the question. Or, like you say in the comments sometimes, the god of Middle-earth, who is a little more... I don't even remember his name or how all that goes, but that gets a little beyond me. But for now, I'm going to say Galadriel. It's my thought here. But it also could just be in Sam's mind. It could just be you don't have time now, you have to, or it's going to be too late. So, all right, to be fair, it could be that simple. But I do like the idea of far-off whispers of help from somewhere else. He braced himself and got up. Frodo also seemed to have felt the call. Oh, well, that's given a little more credence to the external theory. He struggled to his knees. I'll crawl, Sam, he grasped. So foot by foot, like small gray insects, they crept up the slope. They came to the path and found that it was broad, paved with broken rubble and beaten ash. Frodo clambered onto it and then moved, as if by some compulsion, he turned slowly to face the east. That's like not the way they want to look, right? That's towards the tower, I think. Far off, the shadows of Sauron hung, but torn by some gust of wind out of the world, or else moved by some great disquiet within, the mantling clouds swirled, and for a moment drew aside, and then he saw, rising, blacker and darker than the vast shades amid which it stood, the cruel pinnacles and iron crown of the topmost tower of Barad-dûr. So Barad-dûr has multiple towers. One moment only it stared out. But as from some great window, immeasurably high, there stabbed northward a flame of red, the flicker of a piercing eye. And then the shadows were furled again, and the terrible vision was removed. The eye was not turned to them, it was gazed north to where the captains of the west stood at bay. And thither all its malice was now bent, as the power moved to strike its deadly blow. But Frodo, at that dreadful glimpse, fell as one stricken mortally. His hand sought the chain about his neck. Sam knelt by him. Faint, almost inaudible, he heard Frodo's whispering, "Help me, Sam. Help me, Sam. Hold my hand. I can't stop it." Sam took his master's hand and laid them together, palm to palm, and kissed them. And then he held them gently between his own. The thought came suddenly to him. He's spotted us. It's all up, or it soon will be. Now, Sam Gamgee, this is the end of the ends. Again, he lifted Frodo and drew his hands down to his own breast, letting his master's legs dangle. Then he bowed his head and struggled off along the climbing road. It was not as easy a way to take as it had looked at first. By fortune, the fires that had poured forth in the great turmoils when Sam stood upon Cirith Ungol had flown down mainly on the southern and western slopes, and the road on this side was not blocked. Yet in many places it had crumbled away or was crossed by gaping rents. After climbing eastward for some time, it bent back upon itself at the sharp angle and went westward for a space. There, at the bend, it was cut deep through a crag of old weathered stone, once long ago vomited from the mountain's furnaces. Panting under his load, Sam turned the bend, and even as he did so, out of the corner of his eye, he had a glimpse of something falling from the crag, like a small piece of black stone that had toppled off as he passed. I gotta pause. This is all happening so fast. Oh my. Ulmo, who sent the dreams to Faramir and Boromir, and perhaps Frodo. Oh my, Ulmo. I don't know what Ulmo is. I've never heard of Ulmo until right now. So, Gandalf is at the Black Gate looking their direction. Both internal and external. I like that. I guess I'm going to hear more about Ulmo in the future. I don't know when, though. So, Sam's the best. I'm just going to say it. A glimpse of something falling from the crag, a black stone. A sudden weight smote him, and he crashed forward, tearing the backs of his hands that still clasped his master's. Then he knew what had happened. For above him, as he lay, he heard a hated voice. "Oh, no. Wicked master," it hissed. "Wicked master cheats us. Cheats Smeagol. Gollum." No, I'm not going to do the whole thing. Anyway, he mustn't go that way. He mustn't hurt Precious. Give it to us. Give it to Smeagol. Give it to us. With a violent heave, Sam rose up. At once he drew his sword, but he could do nothing. Gollum and Frodo were locked together. Gollum was tearing at his master, trying to get at the chain and the ring. This was probably the only thing that could have roused the dying embers of Frodo's heart and will. An attack, an attempt to wrest his treasure from him by force. Ooh, it's weird that it says that. Like, it's not just an attack. It's not trying to kill him. The only thing that could rouse him is an attack trying to steal his treasure. He fought back with a sudden fury that amazed Sam, and Gollum also. Even so, things might have gone far otherwise if Gollum himself had remained unchanged. But whatever dreadful paths, lonely and hungry and waterless, he had trodden, driven by a devouring desire and terrible fear, they had left grievous marks on him. He was a lean, starved, haggard thing, all bones and tight-drawn, sallow skin. A wild light flamed in his eyes, but his malice was no longer matched by his old gripping strength. Frodo flung him off and rose up quivering. Whoa. So I guess in my mind, I was picturing Gollum kind of crushing it in this land. I was picturing him knowing how to find food and shelter along the way and kind of having a leg up on them because he would know where things are and how to find food, know what to eat. Something about this land I viewed as helping him more than this. So this is kind of interesting to see that even him, even Gollum, who is very resourceful and comfortable in all these weird places, it did a number on him. Down, down, he gasped, clutching his hand to his breast, so that beneath the cover of his leather shirt he clasped the ring. Down, you creeping thing, and out of my path. Your time is at an end. You cannot betray me or slay me now. Well, Frodo's standing tall, saying crazy stuff. Then suddenly, as before, under the eaves of the Emyn Muil, Sam saw these two rivals with other vision. A crouching shape, scarcely more than the shadow of a living thing. A creature now wholly ruined and defeated, yet filled with a hideous lust and rage. And before it stood stern, untouchable, now by pity, a figure robed in white, but at its breast it held a wheel of fire. Out of the fire there spoke a commanding voice. Ooh, I don't like the sound of that one bit. Begone, and trouble me no more. If you touch me ever again, you shall be cast yourself into the fire of doom. The crouching shape backed away, terror in its blinking eyes, and yet at the same time insatiable desire. Then the vision passed, and Sam saw Frodo standing, hand on breast, his breath coming in great gasps, and Gollum at his feet, resting on his knees, with his wide-splayed hands upon the ground. "Look out!" cried Sam. "He'll spring!" He stepped forward, brandishing his sword. "Quick, master!" he gasped. Go on! No time to lose! I'll deal with him! Go on!" Frodo looked at him as if at one now far away. "Yes, I must go," he said. "Farewell, Sam. This is the end at last. On Mount Doom, doom shall fall. Farewell." He turned and went on, walking slowly but erect up the climbing path. Is this Frodo saying goodbye forever? Is this Frodo saying, here's the moment, I'm not going to survive this? And the other question I have is this vision that Sam had of Frodo and Gollum. I'm curious. It's just maybe a slightly enhanced seeing of them, not a vision in the, coming out of nothing per se. It's just he's seeing them, but seeing them with different eyes, maybe. All right, I got to keep going. I can't. It's crazy. And Sam has Sting, so he's ready to guard here, although it seems like Frodo doesn't need so much guarding at the moment. "Now," said Sam, "at last I can deal with you." He leapt forward with drawn blade ready for battle. But Gollum did not spring. He fell flat upon the ground and whimpered. "Don't kill us," he wept. "Don't hurt us with nasty, cruel steel. Let us live, yes, live just a little longer. Lost, we're lost. And when Precious goes, we'll die. Yes, die into the dust." He clawed up the ashes of the path with his long, fleshless fingers. "Dust," he hissed. Sam's hand wavered. His mind was hot with wrath and the memory of evil. It would be just to slay this treacherous, murderous creature. Just and many times deserved. And also it seemed the only safe thing to do. But deep in his heart, there was something that restrained him. He could not strike this thing lying in the dust, forlorn, ruinous, utterly wretched. He himself thought only for a little while, though only for a little while had borne the ring, and now dimly he guessed the agony of Gollum's shriveled mind and body. enslaved to that ring, unable to find peace or relief ever in life again. But Sam had no words to express what he felt. That is interesting. So they didn't even interact when any other time in Mordor. They were just at a distance. And now, for one, Sam was thrown off by Gollum lying flat on the ground looking pathetic. But also, I love that it's saying Sam has never been able to properly understand Gollum. And it even feels like a bit of a confession from Sam. Like, his brief time holding the ring, he understands. He understands on some level what Gollum is feeling. It's like, it's weird. He's not condoning it, but he understands it. Where it no longer seems so crazy to him and ridiculous, he is being merciful. He's saying it would be just to kill him, but he can't do it. He had no words. But this is confirmation that Sam was feeling the power and the draw of the ring on some level, enough to connect with Gollum over this. "Oh, curse you, you stinking thing," he said. "Go away, be off. I don't trust you, not as far as I could kick you, but be off, or I shall hurt you. Yes, with nasty, cruel steel." Gollum got up on all fours and backed away for several paces, and then he turned. And as Sam aimed a kick at him, he fled away down the path. Sam gave no more heed to him. He suddenly remembered his master. He looked up the path and could not see him. As fast as he could, he trudged up the road. If he looked back, he might have seen, not far below, Gollum turn again, and then, with a wild light of madness glaring in his eyes, come, swiftly but warily, creeping on behind, a slinking shadow among the stones. I thought this might be a moment. I thought Gollum would leave there. No, it wasn't a big enough moment. He wouldn't. And another question I have, it was blurred so much. No, we'll see. We'll see. The idea, would Gollum have actually just disintegrated into nothing without the ring, because the ring had been keeping him alive for so long? Is that a thing, or is that like, am I making that up a little bit? The same way that Bilbo looked more aged when he no longer had the ring. If the ring's destroyed, does Gollum automatically die? The path climbed on. Soon it bent again, and with a last eastward course, passed in a cutting along the face of the cone, and came to the dark door in the mountainside, the door of the Samath Naur. Naur? Far away now, rising toward the south, the sun, piercing the smokes and haze, burned ominous, a dull, bleared disk of red, but all Mordor lay about the mountain like a dead land, silent, shadow-folded, waiting for some dreadful stroke. Sam came to the gaping mouth and peered in. It was dark and hot, and a deep rumbling shook the air. "Frodo! Master!" he called, and there was no answer. For a moment he stood, his heart beating with wild fears, and then he plunged in. A shadow followed him. At first he could see nothing. In his great need, he drew out once more the phial of Galadriel. Ooh, I love that. Yeah, I love that that was an instinct of like, hey, this provides light and it's good. And ooh, what kind of influence is that going to have? That was not in the movie. This is great. But it was pale and cold in his trembling hand, and threw no light into that stifling dark. He was come to the heart of the realm of Sauron, and the forges of his ancient might, greatest in Middle-earth. All other powers here were subdued. Whoa, what the? All other powers here were subdued, so all their elven fun is gone? And does that mean that on some level they were being carried along with some additional powers that have been helping them, and now that's all been stripped away when they enter this area? Ooh, yeah. Fearfully he took a few uncertain steps into the dark. I would too. That is not a good feeling. And then all at once there came a flash of red that leapt upwards, and smote the high black roof. Then Sam saw that he was in a long cave or tunnel that bored into the mountain's smoking cone, but only a short way ahead, its floor and the walls on either side were cloven by a great fissure, out of which the red glare came, now leaping up, now dying down into darkness, and all the while far below there was a rumor and a trouble as of great engines throbbing and laboring. My mind went to engines. But I guess that word meant something different before modern engines. I'm reading your line here. There are other powers at work in the world than the power of evil. And that is a comforting thought. Comforting thought, is it not? There are other powers. Yeah, that is a very comforting thought. But not now. Okay. The light sprang up again, and there, on the brink of the chasm, at the very crack of doom, capitalized, crack of doom, stood Frodo, black against the glare, tense, erect, but still, as if he had been turned to stone. "Master!" cried Sam. Then Frodo stirred and spoke with a clear voice, indeed with a voice clearer and more powerful than Sam had ever heard him use, and it rose, above the throb and turmoil of Mount Doom, ringing in the roof and walls. Ooh, I don't like this. "I have come," he said, "but I do not choose now to do what I came to do. I will not do this deed. The ring is mine." And suddenly, as he set it on his finger, he vanished from Sam's sight. Sam gasped, but he had no chance to cry out, for at that moment many things happened. Something struck Sam violently in the back. His legs were knocked from under him, and he was flung aside, striking his head against the stony floor, as a dark shape sprang over him. He lay still, and for a moment all went black. And far away, as Frodo put on the ring, he claimed it for his own. Even in Sammath Naur, the very heart of his realm, the power in Barad-dûr was shaken, and the tower trembled from its foundations to its proud and bitter crown. The Dark Lord was suddenly aware of him, and his eye, piercing all shadows, looked across the plain to the door that he had made, and the magnitude of his own folly was revealed. Okay, guys. Are you there? All right, we're back. Are we back, guys? That was how shocked Sauron was. That was just chaos. Oh my goodness. This is crazy. The feelings Sauron instantly knows and can't do anything, and he's terrified. And then on some level, is he happy that, yeah, great timing, right? Ghost of Sauron. Yeah, we can read that part again. Where did I lose you guys, by the way? I got a little notification, but I was so in the zone. Frodo put the ring on. All right, done. Good. We got to soak that in again. Oh, my. Then, and far away, so Frodo speaks with a clearer voice, cleaner and more powerful than Sam had ever heard. And next two paragraphs. And far away, as Frodo put on the ring, he claimed it for his own. Actually, I'm going to go back. "I have come," he said, "but I do not choose now to do what I came to do. I will not do this deed. The ring is mine." And suddenly, as he set it on his finger, he vanished from Sam's sight. Sam gasped, but he had no chance to cry out, for at that moment, many things happened. Something struck Sam violently in the back. His legs were knocked from under him, and he was flung aside, striking his head against the stony floor as a dark shape sprang over him. He lay still, and for a moment all went black. And far away, as Frodo put on the ring, he claimed it for his own. Is that a distinction there? He had worn the ring before. He had put it on, but this time he put it on and claimed it for his own. I'm going to have to think on that one. Even in the Sammath Naur, where the very heart of his realm, the power in Barad-dûr was shaken, and the tower trembled from its foundations to its proud and bitter crown, the Dark Lord was suddenly aware of him, and his eye, piercing all shadows, looked across the plain to the door that he had made, and the magnitude of his own folly was revealed to him in a blinding flash, and all the devices of his enemies were at last laid bare. Then his wrath blazed in consuming flame, but his fear rose like a vast black smoke to choke him, for he knew his deadly peril, and the thread upon which his doom now hung. From all his policies and webs of fear and treachery, from all his stratagems and wars, his mind shook free, and throughout his realm a tremor ran. His slaves quailed, and his armies halted, and his captains, suddenly steerless, bereft of will, wavered and despaired, for they were forgotten. The whole mind and purpose of the power that wielded them was now bent with overwhelming force upon the mountain. At his summons, wheeling with a rending cry, in the last desperate race there, flew faster than the winds, the Nazgul, the Ringwraiths, and with a storm of wings they hurled southward to Mount Doom. Whoa. I'm thinking in Star Wars, the robots, when you take out their brain and they just shut down, it feels like that with his whole army. They had this purpose of evil pushing them along. But it also makes me wonder, if that's the kind of power that was being put on them, where would they be if they never had Sauron giving them this push to do his will? Is there any good within them? Separate discussion. But anyway, now Ringwraiths, faster than the winds. Sam got up. He was dazed, and blood streaming from his head, dripping into his eyes. He groped forward, and then he saw a strange and terrible thing. Gollum on the edge of the abyss was fighting like a mad thing with an unseen foe. To and fro he swayed, now so near the brink that almost he tumbled in, now dragging back, falling to the ground, rising and falling again, and all the while he hissed but spoke no words. The fires below awoke in anger. The red light blazed, and all the cavern was filled with a great glare and heat. Suddenly, Sam saw Gollum's long hand draw upward to his mouth. His white fangs gleamed and then snapped as they bit. Frodo gave a cry, and there he was, fallen upon his knees at the chasm's edge. But Gollum, dancing like a mad thing, held aloft the ring, a finger still thrust within its circle. It shone now as if verily it was wrought of living fire. "Precious, precious, precious," Gollum cried. "My precious, oh my precious." And with that, even as his eyes were lifted up to gloat on his prize, he stepped too far. Toppled, wavered for a moment on the brink, and then with a shriek he fell. Out of the depths came his last wail. "Precious." And he was gone. There was a roar and a great confusion of noise. Fires leapt up and licked the roof. The throbbing grew to a great tumult, and the mountain shook. Sam ran to Frodo and picked him up and carried him out to the door, and there upon the dark threshold of Sammath Naur, high above the plains of Mordor, such wonder and terror came on him that he stood still, forgetting all else, and gazed as one turned to stone. Wait. He gazed, meaning Sam or Frodo? Sam ran to Frodo, picked him up, carried him out the door. Oh man, that happened so fast. I gotta process all this. You can't go so fast. My goodness, JRR, what you doing? Okay, so, oh boy, it happens quick. His writing is quick. There was a lot of build up, and boom, Gollum's down. I'm processing all of it, where obviously Gollum is excited, and it seems like never even got to put the ring on. And I'm just curious why it says he cried, "Precious, precious, precious, my precious, oh, my precious." And that's all in quotes. Out of the depths came his last wail, "Precious," precious italicized, not in quotes. I'm just trying to process that distinction. Out of the depths, like he was already fallen in. Just interesting. Man, goodness gracious. And a roar and great confusion of noise. Gotta pause for a second. My goodness. Yeah, I'd be getting going quick if I was in a volcano too. I think I've told the story a little bit. And time has further shown us the foolishness of the story. But when I was in Hawaii years ago, me and Trevor and Aaron and our friend Hannah, we went to Volcano National Park, something like that, on the Big Island. And we went back late at night, drove down a little road and parked, and there maybe was some kind of fence. We didn't see the gate, but we imagined where one would have been, and we walked away that we wouldn't have to see any signs that told us not to go there. And we walked down a road for a long, long time, and eventually this road turned to where the original parking lot used to be. And yes, it's called Volcano National Park for a reason. The parking lot that used to exist was now half covered in hardened lava. And we were walking towards the glow of the lava that you could see the smoke during the day. And eventually we get closer and closer, and I'm kind of walking ahead, and we had to jump over these little like fissures in the ground, smoke coming out, and you jump over, and it was so dumb, but very awesome. And then we get to the end, and I've never had my breath taken away, but I remember like I forgot to breathe. Like you just are looking at power, raw power, a lake of lava. And the rumbling that I'm imagining here, because the whole ground was just rumbling at all times, and it would rumble more or less the whole time. And you felt like you couldn't make loud noises because it was the fear of stirring something. You know, you're like, you feel like anything could go wrong at any minute. It was just awe-inspiring, the power of it all. And so I'm imagining that in this moment. So I'd be doing just like Sam and getting on out of there stat. Because there is something crazy about this kind of power, and that feeling of something just got stirred up. I'm gone. I'm getting out of here. Like, they knew something changed. Sam knew in that moment that something changed. And even though he maybe didn't realize that it was the awareness of Sauron, but it was more than that. It was potentially the destruction of the ring in that moment, or a combination of all of those things, depending on what exactly is happening with Gollum at the bottom. But my goodness, I'm just processing, sitting in this moment of craziness. Wow. Sounds like we're having a little debate in the chat. Nice. Wonder and terror came on him. He stood, forgetting all else, and gazed as one turned to stone. A brief vision he had of swirling cloud, and in the midst of it towers and battlements, tall as hills, founded upon a mighty mountain throne, above immeasurable pits, great courts and dungeons, eyeless prisons, sheer as cliffs, and gaping gates of steel and adamant, and then all passed. Towers fell, and mountains slid, walls crumbled and melted, crashing down, vast spires of smoke and spouting steams went billowing up up until they toppled like an overwhelming wave, and its wild crest curled and came foaming down upon the land. And then at last, over the miles between, there came a rumbling, rising to a deafening crash and roar. The earth shook, the plains heaved and cracked, and Erodruin reeled. Fire belched from its riven summit, and the skies burst into thunder, seared with lightning. Down like lashing whips fell a torrent of black rain, and into the hearts of the storm with a cry that pierced all other sound. Tearing the clouds asunder, the Nazgul came, shooting like flaming bolts as caught in a fiery ruin of hill and sky, they crackled, withered, and went out. Whoa. This feels so much more visceral. Shooting like flaming bolts as caught in the fiery ruin of hill and sky, they crackled, withered, and went out. All the Nazgul died above them in this moment. I couldn't tell at first. It sounded like they were either getting hit by the mountain or just fading away. Caught in the fiery ruin. Okay, so they were like caught in the explosions of hill and sky. They crackled, withered. Oh my goodness. Well, this is the end, Sam Gamgee, said a voice by his side. And there was Frodo, pale and worn, yet himself again. So I like that Sam is saying himself again, like he was not himself, and it was clear that he wasn't. And in his eyes, there was a peace now, neither strain of will, nor madness, nor any fear. His burden was taken away. Oh, it's so good that he's not feeling it. He actually feels free and at peace. There was the dear master of the sweet days in the Shire. Master, cried Sam, and fell upon his knees. In all that ruin of the world, for the moment he felt only joy, great joy. The burden was gone. His master had been saved. He was himself again. He was free. And then Sam caught sight of the maimed and bleeding hand. Your poor hand, he said, and I have nothing to bind it with or comfort it. I would have spared him a whole hand of mine rather, but he's gone now, beyond recall, gone forever. Yes, said Frodo, but do you remember Gandalf's words? Even Gollum may have something yet to do. But for him, Sam, I could not have destroyed the ring. The quest would have been in vain, even at the bitter end. So let us forgive him, for the quest is achieved, and now all is over. I am glad you are here with me, here at the end of all things, Sam. Whoa. Wowzers. That's intense, guys. You know, I've been saying it all this time. Sam's the best. But you know what? Frodo's a good dude. Frodo's a good dude. I like that he so quickly has lost the ring and at that moment felt joy, great joy. The burden was gone. And he's so quick to forgive Gollum for all of the things, for a lot of reasons, and I'm sure he's processing a million things, but it's so fast that it makes me think he's been thinking about these words from Gandalf for this whole time. Even Gollum may have something yet to do. And Frodo is so quickly acknowledging that he could not have done it. The whole thing would have been in vain, except that Gollum was there. That was his role, his part to play. And it seems like in some ways Frodo is viewing Gollum as, it sounds harsh to say it like this, or weird or whatever. Like, Gollum saved him. Gollum was his own savior because the weird selfishness of Gollum is what protected Frodo from becoming him or becoming Sauron or something worse than Gollum. So it is like, it's crazy how quickly Frodo realized that and was able to communicate that to Sam. Like, There is no bitterness towards Gollum. Let us forgive him, even at the bitter end. I'm glad you're here with me, here at the end of all things, Sam. I can't believe he's talking forgiveness that quick while he's literally still bleeding, missing a finger. Oh, can't look. Can't look at the next chapter. Oh, my goodness. Wow. This is a perfect time where I'm glad if I was reading this another way, I'd be reading on relatively quickly. But no, not now. I got to sit in this one for a little bit. That is great. Wow. Yeah. Those paragraphs are stupendous. Yeah, that was getting me, you know? Yeah, it's a good way to say it, QWERTY. Frodo did feel that kinship with Gollum. And that's why with this, we feel it again a little more. Sam had the ring for, how long was that? I don't know, not long. A few hours? Was it a day at the most? And he felt kinship with Gollum. He understood him for the first time. And Frodo, and it gives us that view into Frodo and his mindset this whole time. Because he sees Gollum and says, I understand how someone could get there. And Sam was able to see that after one day with the ring. So, yeah, again, it just helps form that connection and why there was that kinship that you're talking about. Why didn't the ring turn Sauron into Gollum? That feels like it's a reference to other parts of the chat that I don't even understand. But I feel like it's because Sauron made the ring and Gollum didn't. Although that gets into a deeper discussion about The Hobbit and how much of this J.R.R. had planned versus, like, the story feels slightly different, but I think The Hobbit might be next. I'll talk to John and see when the time comes. I don't want to get ahead of myself, though. Frodo has nothing else to do apart from getting his affairs in order mentally. They're lost and about to die. Nazgul were possessed by exercising power. So you guys are having a kind of debate about the people exposed to rings and how it affected them. That's what I'm gathering. Nazgul, Gollum, Frodo, Sam a little bit, Bilbo, Sauron. And then I guess we could include the elves. Although those rings, I got to do a little more deep dive on some of this lore because it was different. The rings of men, dwarves, elves. The men did not do so hot. But it seems like sometimes the dwarves didn't do that great either. There was some greed involved. Anyway. Yeah, Frodo's got PTSD. Big time. Sauron is literally the Lord of the Ring. Master, not slave. Lord of the Rings. Is he the Lord of all the rings? Or how many of them? Only the rings of men. What was that, 9? Plus the 1. He's a 10-ring Lord. Yeah, it's funny. Wow. Oh, man. Got to sit in that a little bit. I am going to take a peek at the next chapter because I want to see what it was called. Because now I'm curious. Well, for one, are we going to stick with Frodo and Sam? No. I think we need to get a battle at the Black Gate, right? So maybe not next. Maybe we'll get all of that stuff in hindsight as being explained by someone in a story like Aragorn or Legolas tells us about it. Well, not Legolas. He's not enough of a talker. But no, I think we're going to go back and get a chapter or two from a different perspective back in time. And this is where JRR decides to leave us for a while. Good spot to leave us. Good spot to leave us. Let me see. Will our next chapter be the Captains of the West traveling north? That title tells me nothing. The Field of Cormallen. The Field of Cormallen. That would help a lot if I knew what or where that was. No, Morannon. I don't see it on the map. You know what? My thought is that could that be the field in front of the Black Gates? Or is that what it used to be called? Probably, maybe. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to know what that is, but I'm sure I'll find out next week on another adventure in Mordor. Wow. Well, I guess that chapter title did not give me a lot of information. But guys, thanks for watching all this. This was quite a chapter. Glad we could do this together. A couple teary-eyed moments. Sam being amazing. The writing being incredible. That ending. And again, the Mordor feeling like it was built up into a bit more of a land. I feel like it felt more substantial, like these roads and even Sauron and his tower and Frodo getting glimpses over there. And this is the first time the eye felt like the eye we see in the movie a lot earlier on. I feel like if you were reading this for the first time with no context, the flaming eye, it would become more real here, obviously, than ever before. But it would pack more of a punch, some of those moments where it's like, whoa, huge tower, flaming eye, looking north towards the Black Gate, and then feeling the power shift in those moments. Crazy. I forget, I think I've done this before, but back when we were doing our chapter by chapter podcast for Harry Potter and earlier Lord of the Rings, we would do favorite moment and favorite character and hot tamale. So I'm going to say this is a limited options here. Had a couple favorite moments with Sam. It feels like my favorite moment is right at the end when Frodo is forgiving Gollum. I'll say it. That's my favorite moment because he's feeling peace, and then I feel like I felt peace because of that, because of all the turmoil we've been going through for so long, and feeling like he was naked in the dark, feeling like he was exposed, and he didn't even remember trees or his previous steps on the journey. And again, shows how much Sam was needed to get him all this way. So just that relief. Favorite moment. Favorite character? I'll say Sam, because Sam was the best. Sam is the best. He's so good. Brief moment here where he said, hey, let me carry it for a while. Share the load. But other than that, he was just crushing it all chapter long, all book long. And then hot tamale, for anyone who doesn't know, that was something Jen said back in the day. And Ginny Weasley was the original hot tamale because she's just the perfect level of spicy, And so I think at first hot tamale meant something like kind of like, ooh, yeah, there's like some certain kind of weird energy, sexy stuff. It doesn't mean that anymore. But it's just kind of like, it doesn't fit in favorite character, but there's something, a little je ne sais quoi, a little something extra. So I'm going to say hot tamale, pun intended, Gollum. Not just because of how he ended. Ooh, harsh. But because of what Frodo said. The whole quest would have failed if it wasn't for Gollum and his weird lack of control and desire for the ring and stalking and the whole thing. So it's maybe not in true hot tamale energy, but it's just that idea of we got to give Gollum a little bit of, dare I say, appreciation for all the times where he's driven us nuts. Let me see. What did Frodo exactly say? Even Gollum may have something yet to do. The quest would have been in vain, even at the bitter end. I could not have destroyed it. Yeah, so anyway, hot tamale energy, I guess, in some way. But yeah, that'll do it. Guys, let's all process this over the next coming days. I'm not even going to give a timeline because every time I think, man, I got to read the next chapter tomorrow or next week. We'll see. I hope so. I hope that I can say in a week I'll read another chapter. Work's crazy right now, so I don't mind sitting right here on the slopes of Mount Doom with Sam and Frodo as we decide what comes next for a little bit longer. But soon, we'll be doing that next chapter. Thanks for joining, everybody. Whoa, gotta go. Kids' swimming lessons. Great timing. We are around the world. I just love it. People are going out for swimming lessons right now. Crazy. Oof. Oof. Wow. I love that you're having all these debates. Keep the debates going, Let the chat be full of these debates. It's great. And I feel like I will come to appreciate them even more and more as my lore knowledge deepens. But thanks for joining, everybody. Everywhere around the world, good morning, good evening, good night. It's been great. I will be crispy by the time I get to the next chapter. Yeah. Yeah, of course. Whoa, Cordy, past midnight? European. Yeah, of course. Go to bed. Enjoy it. And for anyone doing their drives, keep driving safe. Glad we could entertain you for a little bit. Thanks, guys. It's been great. Talk to you all soon.